Hi everyone, today we will be looking at shapes in detail. Shapes are one of the key pillars of PowerPoint. You can use them to create custom graphics, infographics, timelines, icons, or you can even crop images to specific shapes. At the technical level, shapes are vector-based objects. What that means is you can scale them to any size and there won't be any loss of quality. In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about working with shapes in PowerPoint. Here is what we will be covering. We will start with looking at different types of shapes that you will encounter in PowerPoint. We will then insert shapes. There are about 190 different types of shapes in PowerPoint. We don't need to know all of them because most commonly you will end up using about 10 to 15 of them or some versions of them. So as long as you know those, you should be good. We will then dive deep into shape formatting. We will look at fill types, shape outlines, shape effects like 3D, shadows, and so on. We will look at how to resize, align, and rotate shapes. Next, we will look at how to work with text in shapes. For the 7th chapter, we will look at how to group and layer shapes. Next, we will look at how merge shape tool works. It is one of the most powerful tools that we have for shapes. Next one, we will look at some examples of shapes in action. Finally, I'll share a couple of tips that will help you in working with PowerPoint. For the last part, I will take you through all the 190 shapes and I will mention anything specific that's worth noting for some of those shapes. So with that, let's get to it. So what are the different types of shapes that you will encounter? I have classified them in 4 types. The first one is just a line. It doesn't have any shape fill associated with it. It's just an outline, and these are static shapes. So you can resize them. However, they don't do anything more than that. The second type you have is outline plus they are dynamic. So there will be yellow handles you will have that will allow you to change these shapes once you have drawn them on your slides. So as an example, for a shape like this, you would have a yellow handle at the middle. If you move this left or right, this line will shift. The third type you will encounter is a shape that has both fill color as well as an outline, but these are again static. Similar to this case, the shapes here are dynamic. You will have yellow handles that allow you to further customize the shape once you have drawn it. Next, let's look at how to actually insert the shapes. I'm onto a new slide. You can find shapes under Insert menu. So click on Insert menu, locate Shapes, and you will see that we have a lot of shapes to choose from. Here are the lines which just have outlines. They don't have any fill color associated with them, while all these rest have fill color associated with them as well as outline. So let's pick a basic rectangle. So bring your cursor on top of the shape, then left click. Your cursor should turn into a plus sign. Then left click your mouse and drag like so. And once you are happy with the size, you can release the left mouse button. Let's say while you are dragging, you want to go back and reduce the size, you can do that as well. As long as you keep your left mouse button pressed, you are still in the drawing mode. So I think I'm going to release my mouse at this point. And once that's done, you have a free shape object on your slide. You can grab this shape by left clicking your mouse and you can freely move this around anywhere on slide. Let's keep this in the center. And that's how easy it is to draw a basic shape. When it comes to lines, same thing. Bring your cursor on top of it, left click on your mouse, then drag like so. And once you have decided on the size, release the left mouse button and there's your line. Next, let's look at some of the commonly used shapes. So as I mentioned before, there are about 190 shapes. However, we don't need to know all of them. Based on my experience, here are some of the common shapes that you will need to use over and over again. So even if you start with these shapes and then work your way up, you should be in a good position to get a complete mastery over shapes. Here we have a basic line, then a line with arrow. Then to connect across objects on your slide, you would need something like a connector elbow. Then similarly, we have connector elbows with arrows. There is also a curved version of this. Then we have our trusty rectangle, then rectangle with 4 rounded corners. There could be other variations of these. like rectangle with just one rounded corner, two rounded corners. There could be a rectangle with a snipped edge. If you know these two, it's easier to remember rest of them. Then we have a circle, which is called oval in PowerPoint. Then there are two triangles in PowerPoint, but in my opinion, the right angle triangle is the most useful. Then we have a donut, which is called circle hollow in PowerPoint. Here I have a right facing arrow, but the arrow could be facing in any direction. Then we have a 5-point star. Then we have 3 variations of speech bubbles. I personally use this middle one. This is a short list to remember, so just learn about these shapes. Next up, let's look at shape formatting in detail. I'm in the design mode. Let's pull up a basic rectangle. So go to insert, click on shapes. I'm going to select this rectangle with rounded corners. Draw a rectangle of about this size. So you'll notice that we are in this menu called shape format. So whenever you click on a shape object, the menu for shape formatting should light up. Here we have various options. We're going to look at them one by one, but before we do that, I also want to show you that we can get the same options in a slightly different way. If we right click and click on format shape at the bottom, you will see a bunch of options open up on the right hand side. So they are exactly same, however, they are laid out differently. Now these options are coming from the legacy version of PowerPoint. So in the older versions, we would have a pop-up window show up with these exact same options, but in the newer versions, they are embedded into this right-hand side window. I am old school, so I always format anything using these right-hand side menus. However, if you are just starting, you have option to choose either of them. For simplicity, I will show you what each of these options do from this menu at the top. In between, I might show you how you can get similar options from the right hand side, just so you have a flavor of both these menus. So let's start. First up, we have this shape fill, which is nothing but the color that you will use to fill a shape. If you click on this menu, you will have a bunch of colors to pick from. Let's click on orange. Then we have a few more options at the bottom, starting with no fill. If you click on no fill, it will remove the color from your shape. So now this is a transparent shape. If you have another object and you bring this object on top of it, you will see that the shape has become transparent. The next option is more fill colors. If we click on this, we get to choose colors in 2 different ways. First, you can pick a color from this standard color wheel. This slider at the bottom is to choose transparency. So let's say if we pick a color and click on OK, let me go back to it again. If I move this slider, you will see that my shape can now become transparent. If I bring my shape on top of another shape, the color is transparent now. So this is also a super useful feature to have. Next, if we click on more color fill again, let's crank this transparency all the way to 0. So there is no transparency. If we click on this custom tab here, we get to be much more precise in terms of color selection. If you have a specific value you would need to use for your colors, this is especially true for any brand colors. You can enter those red, green, blue values here. There is also another type of model you can use. This is HSL, which is hue, saturation, and luminosity. Here, basically you specify a color out of 255 colors. Then you specify here how much saturation you want in your color. And in this third drop-down box, you specify how bright your color should be. So just as an example, let's say we go with orange color here. Let's make this darker. When I move my slider, some of these values change. So here the luminosity changes. The lighter the color, the brighter it is. When I bring this here, it's of course becomes darker. All the way here is the white color. So you get to control luminosity here. Saturation is how much of the same color is in it. So right now you'll see this preview color here for orange. It's pretty saturated. If I reduce this value to 100, it becomes desaturated. It's become pale. If I crank this up all the way to 255, it's a lot more vibrant. If you have a hex value, you can specify that here. So learning all these coloring options can be really useful. Just get yourself familiarized with these 2 options. I mean, this is less useful. This is a lot more useful. So let me click OK. Next, we have this eyedropper tool. If you want to change the color of your shape to a specific color and you don't really want to go inside the color wheel and change the values there, click on this eyedropper tool and just bring your eyedropper onto the color that you want and left click your mouse. It'll apply your color to this shape. Now eyedropper tool only works in this area here. Let's say if I click on it again and if I bring it here, it disappears. So it only works on the slide area. Let's say if you want a completely different color from somewhere else, what you can do is you can take the screenshot of that color and paste that screenshot onto your slide, and that way you can copy that color using your eyedropper. So let's say you have this image and you really like this pink color and you want to copy that. First step is to bring your image here with that color, then click on your shape, click on eyedropper tool, and bring your eyedropper onto this pink color, and then just left click your mouse. It'll apply this color here. Next up, we have picture option. So if I click on picture here, you can bring your own image file, or you can pick one from the stock images, or you can go to a website and select your image from there. Finally, if you need icon, you can click on this last option. I'm going to click on this stock images option, select this first image and click insert. You will see that our image has been cropped to this shape and our handles or these customization options are still intact. The only caveat I have here is the original image orientation should match your shape. So if your image is, let's say, wider than it is taller, if your shape doesn't match that ratio, your image might either look squished or elongated. Next up, we have gradient option. So there are a few presets we get. One uses light variation, another uses darker variation. If I click on more gradients, it looks like nothing has happened. However, PowerPoint now wants us to get access to those options from the right hand side. Here we are under shape options. Under that we have a bunch of options. So the first one is no fill, which we already saw. We are right now on a solid fill, and this third option is the gradient fill option. So if you want specific gradients to be applied to your shape, you will have to come here on the right hand side. Here we get few preset options based on the color scheme we have. If you are in a rush, you can just pick something from here and get going. If you are like me, you really want to get the best looking gradients, you will have to master this slider here. It's called gradient stops. We have a bunch of pins here. Now each of these pins are associated with a color, a transparency, and a brightness. You can add as many pins as you want, but you will need to have a minimum of 2 pins. So let me show you how to delete these. Select your pin and click on this X option here. Let me get rid of this pin as well. So now we have 2 pins to begin with. Let's give first pin a color, let's say a green color, and the second pin an orange. Our gradient goes from green to orange and it fills up in between colors based on your color wheel. This is where you can select the type. Right now you'll see the color gradient changes in a straight line. That's because the type right now is linear. You can change the direction from here. So right now we have this first option, which is at an angle of 45 degrees. So our gradient goes in this direction, which is the 45-degree angle. If we change this to 90 degrees, we are back to where we started. So our gradient goes from top to bottom. If we change this to 180 degrees, now the gradient goes this way. If we change the gradient type to radial, the gradient will radiate outwards from this first pin, which is our green color here. If we were to change the direction to center, the green color moves to the center, and you can see clearly that the gradient is radiating outward equally from the center. If we change that to rectangle, same thing, except the shape now is a rectangle. So if I pick the center, you'll see there is a rectangle at the center. And the last one is path, which is more like a line than a shape. Let's say if we wanted to add one more color in the middle, click somewhere in the center here. PowerPoint will automatically add a pin for us. You will see its position is at 50%, so it's right at the center. Let's select a blue color. Now we have a 3-color gradient. It's quite fun to tinker with these options. So just go ahead and move these pins around and see what results you get. You can also specify transparency for any specific color here. So let's say for the middle one, I can just enter any transparency here. Let's say 50%. And if I bring my object underneath it, you will see that this top shape is transparent. This one checkbox we have at the bottom is rotate with shape. What that does is if I were to rotate this shape, let's say using this arrow, if I move this, my gradient now rotates with this shape. If I uncheck this option, try to rotate now, you see the gradient remains the same, only my shape has rotated. There are 2 more options we have under shape fill called pattern fill and slide background fill, which are not present under this shape fill menu. So let's look at them quickly. First is slide background fill. What it does is it applies the slide background color to our shape. So right now it's white. So if I click on this option, our shape will become white. Pattern fill option gives us preset patterns to choose from. I have taken a screenshot of this option here so we can see them better. You also get foreground and background colors to apply. So let's apply a pattern to see how this looks. So click on your shape, click on pattern fill. Let's go with this diagonal stripes, dark upward. We can change the foreground color to say orange, and let's pick this yellow orange for the background color. Keep changing these options until you get the pattern that you like, but it can be fun to explore this option. So try this out. The last option under shape fill menu is texture. Here we have a bunch of textures that you can apply to the shape. So like this walnut look, you can get the same option from the right hand side. So we just looked at this gradient fill option. This is our texture fill, but here on the right hand side, we get one additional thing as well. So it's not just a texture fill, you can also select your picture from this option here. So we already saw picture here, but on the right hand side, the picture and texture options have been clubbed together under one option here. If you click on insert, we get the same 4 options here. These are the textures that we just saw. Then here we have a bunch of image specific options. Let's select this doctor image again. Here we can specify the transparency for our image. So when I drag this, you can see the picture looks like it's fading. However, it's becoming transparent. If we check this box here, the picture will get tiled. So let's say if our shape was this big, but the image was smaller, this tile option will repeat this image until it fills up the entire shape. But in our case, because the image itself is way too big than our shape, if we check this option, you will not see anything. That's because the image is quite large. The offset left will squish your image from left, right will squish it from the right hand side, top from top, and offset bottom will squish it from bottom. Next we have shape outline. These options will be similar to the shape fill options. However, they apply only to this outline. So let's select an outline orange. You will see the border color has changed to orange. If you click on no outline, the border will disappear. More outline colors will give us the same coloring options. Eyedropper will work exactly same as how we saw for shape fill. So if I bring my eyedropper here, it'll apply this blue border. Weight is where you can specify the thickness you want for your outline. So if I give this a big weight like this, you will see the outline is quite thicker now. If we click on more lines, we get a few options on the right hand side. So let's shift our attention to the right hand side. So under line, we have 3 options. No line will just get rid of the outline. Solid line is with a fixed solid color. Right now it's blue, as you can see here. Transparency will make the outline transparent. We just saw the weight, so you can enter any specific weight you have in your mind here. So if I wanted really thick border, let's say 10, I can do that here. Next option is sketched style. Under sketch style, we can change our outline to one of the 3 options that mimic a hand-drawn line. First option is curved. This is how it looks. The second option is called freehand. And the last option is called scribble. This will be even more wavier. I have never used these options in my life. Next we have compound type. Let's click on all of them one by one. First is double. This one will turn this into a thick and thin line. Next one will turn this into a thin and thick line. And the last one is a triple line. Again, I have never used these options. Now the dash type has practical uses. So you can convert your solid border into any of these dashed options. Let me change this image back to a solid color. Let me change the outline to something we can see and change the width just so that we can see it. Let's change the color to a white color. So this was our first round dot option. Then we have square dot. Looks nice. Then we have a dashed line. So the same thing, but they are much more spaced out. So check out all these other options. They are very useful in real life. For the next one, cap type, we are going to need a line, especially this elbow shape. So let me just drag my rectangle here. Let's color this orange and increase its width to 2. By default, the cap type is flat. If we change this to round, let me zoom in and also increase the width. You'll see the ends are now rounded. If I change this to flat, they go back to being flat. And the square option is similar to flat option. However, our line extends beyond this end point here. Again, flat is this way and square is this way. For the most part, flat or round works the best. Next, we have join type. Join is how you would like these joints to look. So by default, we have miter, which is the standard joint in architecture. It's at 90 degrees. If we change this to bevel, we get our corners cut off like this. Round will change these corners to a nice curve. Then we have arrow types. So this is where we will choose how the ends of our lines look. If we select this arrow, you'll see our arrowhead appears on one side. For the other side, click on this end arrow type and select the same option here. There are other types of arrowheads you can select, like this circle or this diamond. In this second option, arrow size, you can select how big you want this arrowhead to be. Right now, it's in the middle here, which is size 5. If you want this really small, we can go with size 1. Let's change that on the other side as well. And if we choose the last one, it will look this big. That's your line options. Next, let's look at shape effects. So we can get shape effects by clicking on this option, or on the right hand side, click on this middle button called effects, and we will get same options here as well. Let's go over these options from the right hand side, because for some things, this menu will anyway send us on the right hand side. First up, we have shadows. So as the name suggests, you can add shadows to your shape. We have 3 types of shadows. First one is outer shadows, so shadows that are outside of the shape. Inner shadows are shadows inside of the shape. And perspective is if this shape were 3D shape and there is a light source somewhere outside, how would the shadow of this shape fall onto your slide? So that's what perspective is. If we click on offset center, it will add a shadow equally around your shape. These are the options associated with it. So the color of the shadow, a black shadow or a gray shadow would work the best. How hard do you want your shadow to be? That's controlled by transparency. If we make this 0, which is completely opaque, you will see our shadow is quite sharp and dark. So having this somewhere in the middle is more practical. Next up, we have size. So how big do you want your shadow to be? If we crank this up all the way, you'll see the shadow becomes really big. Usually a value between 102 to 105% is a lot more practical. Then we have blur. This option controls how diffused you want your shadow to be. If we reduce the blur value to a 0, we get a hard shadow like this. And if we crank this up all the way to the maximum value of 100, we get a very diffused shadow. Here too, a lower value is the best. So somewhere in the range of 1 to 5. Then we have the angle of shadow. Now this is again tied to all these presets we have here. So this central offset is at an angle of 0 degrees. If I were to select, let's say, this first bottom right shadow option, our shadow is only on this bottom right hand side. Let me actually increase its size so we can see that. So this shadow is at an angle of 45 degrees. If we change this to, let's say, 100 degrees, you'll notice our shadow has now shifted on this side. What I would recommend is, instead of worrying about angle here, just select the presets from here. And last one is the distance. So how far do you want the shadow to be from your object? If we crank this up, you will see the shadow is going farther away from the shape. A value of 1 to 5 is a lot more practical. So that's outer shadow for you. Inner shadow will give us shadow inside of your shape. So inner shadows are interesting because they create a completely different effect. So right now, if you see, it looks as if we have cut out a hole in this white rectangle. In terms of customization, we get similar options here. Perspective will look like this. The key differentiating feature from the outer shadow is the distances will be usually large and the blur factor will be large as well. So feel free to explore all these options at your leisure. So that's shadows. Next we have reflection. So if I were to select, let's say, one of these options, this option called full reflection touching, we get a reflection of our object here. Let me actually turn off the shadow because right now both are fighting with each other. Now we just have reflection. Here we have similar options. Feel free to experiment with these. Then we have glow. Let's select one of these preset options. Let me turn off reflection by clicking on no reflection. So glow, as the name suggests, creates a halo around your shape in the color that you specify. So you can pick your color here. Specify how big you want your glow to be. The higher the value, the bigger your glow would be. This can be useful if you have an icon for a light bulb and you want to show light radiating from your icon. You can use this glow option. Transparency is similar to what we saw before. Let's select no glow and move on to our next option, which is soft edges. Soft edges, as the name suggests, create soft edges around our shape here, and they increase in intensity, starting with this first option with 1 point to this last, which is 50 points. So let's see how 2.5 looks. We'll see that the edges have become soft or diffused. Let me select no soft edges and move on to 3D format. For 3D, we have two main options. One is 3D format. It controls the formatting of the 3D shape from bevels to depth, contours, the lighting, and the type of material. And the second menu we have is for rotation. So if you want to rotate your 3D shape in 3D space, that can be controlled by 3D rotation. In order for us to see what some of these effects do, we first need to rotate our shape. So under 3D rotation, we can rotate our shape across each of the 3 axes individually. But the easiest is to pick a preset from this presets menu. Let's just select one of the presets. So I'm going to pick this off axis to left. This has rotated our shape along the x-axis and y-axis. Let's go back to our 3D formatting options. Top bevel allows us to select the bevel for this top surface. Let me select the first option we have here. Width and height control how big you want your bevel to be. So if I were to change these values to 10 each, our bevel is a lot bigger. Bottom bevel controls the bevel for the bottom surface. Currently, we can't see the bottom surface because it's facing away from us. In order for us to see that, we will need to rotate this shape. Let's change this x-axis value so the backside faces us like so. Now if we change the bottom bevel, you will see that change being applied here. Let's go back to our original position. Next we have depth. Depth controls how thick our shape is going to be. So this is your width, this is your height. So depth will be along this z-axis here. So let's pick a high value and you will see the depth has appeared here. Contour controls the curvature of this edge here or the outline. If I change this value to say 4 and change the color as well so that we can see. So this is our contour. If we increase the value, you will see the contour value changing as well. Bring this back to 0. Next we have material. Material allows us to choose the material for our shape. Right now it's at warm matte. So the surface of our shape behaves like a warm matte surface. We can change it to metal. Now this would behave like a metal surface. Lighting controls how light hits our 3D shape. So it can affect how the highlights look, the shadows, and the overall look and feel of our shape. Let's select something randomly, contrasting. If we change this to say bright room, it behaves as if it's inside a bright room. So it can be fun to tinker with all these options. I encourage you to go and explore all these. You can also change the direction of the light. So if I were to change this to 45 degrees, see the light source has changed. We have one more option here at the bottom called keep text flat. If I check that, watch what happens to the text. The text is now independent of your shape's rotation. So no matter how you rotate your shape, the text will always look flat. Distance from ground controls the distance of this shape from the ground of this 3D object. To show you, let me change this to a higher value. Now the ground for this shape was somewhere back here. So when I change this to 40, it moved away from it. Let's see this in action at some other rotation. So let's change this rotation to this. So for this shape, the ground is at the bottom, and because it's at 40, it has moved up. If I change this back to 0, you'll see it has gone down. So that was a quick overview of 3D in PowerPoint. Next up, let's look at resizing, aligning, and rotating one by one, starting with resizing. So resizing is quite straightforward. Depending on the shape, you can resize it by pulling on one of these sides in any direction that you want, be it from the top, bottom, side, or you can even resize them from corners by pulling on the handle. If you want your shape to be resized in proportion, hold down your Shift key and then drag the shape. If you want precise control, go to this last button on the right hand side called Size and Properties. Open this size menu. You can specify the height and width separately. If you want both of them to change simultaneously, check this option called Lock Aspect Ratio. That way, if you change one, the other will change in proportion. You can even change the size of your shape based on percentages. So here we have 57%. If we change this to 100%, our shape increases with respect to percentages. We will look at rotations separately, but essentially if you change values here, your shape would rotate. So that's a quick overview of resizing. Next, aligning. For any good looking slides, aligning is quite important. So let's look at all the alignment options. So these are 9 shapes I have set up. As you can see, they are all over the place. There is no consistency in terms of spacing between them, or they are not at the same level. So let's fix that. What I want to do is I want to arrange them in a nice symmetrical 3x3 matrix. So first step is aligning these on the same line. So select all of them. So what I'm doing is I'm holding down my left mouse click button and dragging across these 3 shapes, and then releasing the mouse button will select all of them at once. Another way you can select them is hold down your Shift or Control key and then click on them one after another. Once you have them selected, click on Shape Format, locate this Align option, open it. We want them to be on the same line. So we have a couple of options. We can click on Align Top. This arranges them on the same line. Now this works because all our shapes are identical. But let's say if this shape was slightly bigger, we don't want them to be aligned this way. We want them to be aligned with respect to their center. So select all of them again, click on Align and click on Align Middle. You'll see now they are aligned on the same line. However, they are aligned with respect to their central axis. We can also align them with respect to bottom. Find the option called Align Bottom and they will be aligned with respect to the bottom edge. Let's repeat that for remaining 2 lines. So select them, click on Align Middle one more time. Let's fix the size of this shape. I want them to be identical. Let's also align them vertically. So we can drag select these 3, go to Shape Format menu, click on Align. This time let's click on Align Center. Let's repeat that for this one. So click on Align, this time click on Align Left, and for this one let's click on Align Right. So far so good. Now we need to fix the spacing. Select first 3 shapes. And from Align, click on Distribute Horizontally. So this option makes sure that the spacing between the 3 shapes is even. Let's repeat that for this one and for this one. We need to do one more thing. We also need to make sure the spacing vertically is also even. So select the first column. This time, select this option called Distribute Vertically. Let's repeat that. There is one more option we need to check. Here at the bottom, we have these 2 options. One is called Align to Slide. The other one is Align Selected Objects. Right now, align selected objects is selected, which means any alignment we make only applies to shapes where they are currently. But if we were to check this option, align to slide, any alignment we make will now be applied with respect to slide. So as an example, if I were to click on align top, it'll align these three shapes to the top of this slide. Similarly, middle would place them in the middle of the slide. That's what that option does. And that's it. We got our 9 shapes aligned on the same line in the same column, and we have even spacing between all of them. Let's look at rotations. So you can rotate objects in a couple of ways. The easiest way is click on this circular arrow, hold down your left mouse button and just freely rotate it in any direction you want. And once you are happy, just release the mouse button. If you hold down your shift key while you rotate, your shape will rotate 15 degrees at a time. So this gives you some control over your rotations. To rotate your shapes much more precisely, click on this size and properties button, locate rotations, and this is where you can specify the rotation angle. So let's say 90 degrees. This will rotate your shape 90 degrees. So that's rotation for you. Next up, let's look at how to work with text in shapes. There are 2 ways you can add text within shapes. First is you click on your shape, then right click, click on edit text, and then just type in your text here. The second option is you click on your shape and then press F2 and type in your text. You can increase your font size from this home menu here. So right now the font size is 18 points. Let's increase this to 44. You can change your font type here. Text color options are all here. If you want to add background color, this is where you can do that. This is where you can increase the spacing between your text. Your bold, italics, underline, and text shadow options are here. This is the strikeout option. So if you click on this, you will get a line across your text. You can also increase your font sizes by clicking on these 2 buttons. So the bigger A would increase your font size, the smaller A would decrease it. This one will clear all the formatting. So we will go back to the default formatting. From here, you can change the casing for your text. So sentence case is the default option. Lowercase would turn all of them in lowercase, uppercase is this. Capitalize each word would capitalize the first letter of each word, and toggle case would just flip the current casing. So what is capital would become lowercase, and what is lowercase would become uppercase. Then we have standard alignment options here. So this is align left, align center, right, and this is justify. We can even split our text in multiple columns. So 2 columns would split this in 2 columns. You can even split this in multiple columns by clicking on more columns. This option will control the line spacing for your text. Next, specific to your shapes, we have a bunch of formatting options, so you can get access to them from either these 3 buttons, or if you click on this text options button here, you can get a bunch of options that are quite similar to your shape fill options. So similar to shape fill, we get these no fill, solid fill, gradient fill options. We also have pattern fill. You can also format your outline for the text. So just like shapes, you also get outlines for your text. If we click on this second option, we get the same 3D formatting related options. This is where we can control the alignment. So right now the text is aligned to middle. You can align this to top or any of these other positions. We can even change the text direction. So right now this is horizontal. If we click on rotate 90 degrees, it'll rotate your text. So you have 2 more options here. Then we can shrink text on overflow. Let's say if we add a lot of text to our shape, it can no longer fit all of that text based on the current font size. So what this option does is it shrinks the text automatically to make sure it fits within the boundaries of your shape. The third option is resize shape to fit text. So if I click on this, now the shape has adjusted itself with respect to the text. Then we can control the margins for our text here. If you want no margins between your text and the boundaries of your shape, you can just specify 0 here. Or if you want a specific value, let's say 0.5, you get a margin of 0.5 inches on the left hand side. So you can specify margins lines across all the 4 sides. Checking the wrap text in shape will make sure that any text that overflows your shape will wrap itself inside your shape. Columns option is similar to the columns option we saw here under home menu. So right now this is in 1 column. If we say 2 columns, your text will go on to 2 columns. Next, let's look at grouping and layering. Grouping allows us to group shapes into a single object. So let's say if we have multiple objects on our slide, it could be text or shapes or lines or images, doesn't matter. To group them, you just drag select all of them, then right click, locate group, then click on group. So now if we move one of the shapes, all of them move at once because this has now become a one object. This can also allow us to format all of them at once. So let's say if we want to change the fill color from blue to green, just change the color, and in one click we can change colors for multiple objects. We can also group all the objects using a keyboard shortcut Ctrl-G on Windows. To ungroup, you can press Ctrl-Shift-G on Windows, or you can right click, locate group, and click on ungroup. There is a third option we have called regroup, which remembers your previous grouping. So let's say this arrow, you want it from this way to this way, and now you want to regroup everything again. You don't need to select all the objects at once. You can just right click one of the objects, then from group menu, click on regroup. It remembers what you grouped last time and it will group all those same objects again. Next, let's look at layering. If you have multiple objects on your slide, it is important to be able to arrange them in the proper order. What goes on top, what goes at the bottom, all that can be controlled using 2 options. If you click on an object and right click, we have these 2 options called bring to front and bring to back, which have 2 more options under them, which are bring to front and bring forward. Similarly, for send to back, we have send to back and send backward. So let's look at this example. Here I want this 1 to be way at the bottom, then 2 on top of that, 3 on top of 2, then 4 on top of 3, and 5 way at the top, and above all of that I want this icon. So right now you will see they are not in the order that we want. We want this 2 behind 3. To do that, select the object with 2, right click, let's send this back. Now the question you might have is, which option should I select and what is the difference between them? So let's click on them to find out. Let me click on send to back first. Now this send this object all the way to the back of all the objects we have. So that's not what we want. Let's undo that. Let's see what happens when we click on send backward. Well, it seems to have sent this object back by 1 object, which is exactly what we wanted. To better understand this, click on home menu, locate this option called select, and then click on selection pane. Here you will see all our objects are named here. I actually took the time to label them like this. They don't come labeled by default. This is just so that you can understand what's happening. So this is where we can see the current order of all the objects. What's at the top is the object that will be way in front. So right now this object 4 is all the way in the front. Object 1 is all the way at the back. You can ignore crystal and slide title for now. So you can also adjust the order of all these objects by dragging them here. So let's say if you wanted 5 all the way at the top, you can just drag this option above 4, and now your object 5 will be all the way at the top. Let's also look at bring to forward option. Let's say 5 was behind 4. To bring it forward, you can right click, click on bring to front. If you click on bring to front, it will send this object all the way to the top, and bring forward will only send it 1 layer up. So in this case, because object 5 is already 1 below the topmost object, both options will give us the same result. So if I selected bring forward, you can see the position of it also changed in the selection panel. Now we want to send this object all the way to the top. So let's right click, click on bring to front, and click on bring to front again. You will see this crystal got sent all the way to the top. Last step is select all of them. Click on shape format, go to align, let's align them to center. I want this here at the bottom, so I can send that either manually or I can also click on align to bottom. Let's move this up a little and we got ourselves a 5Y model. Next up, merge shapes tools. So if you click on any object, click on shape format, you can locate merge shapes tool here. Right now it's disabled because to enable it, we need to select at least 2 objects. Now you will see merge shapes has been enabled. We have these options here. I have pasted a screenshot of that here. Let's look at all 5 options one by one and see what they do. First up, union. Union just combines all the shapes into one large shape. So we have these 2 rectangles. To merge them in union, click both of them, go to shape format, click on merge shapes and click on union. You'll see now we have one single object. In terms of why it colored it orange, the coloring depends on which of the 2 objects you clicked on first. So this time I had selected orange first and then blue, so that's why the combined shape was applied the color of this orange shape. If we did it the other way around, so we selected blue color first, then the orange color and repeated the same steps, you will see now it's colored blue. Next up, combine. What combine does is it combines both the objects. However, any area that's intersecting, it will remove that. Let's see what happens. I'm going to select both of them. Remember, I clicked on blue first, then click on combine. As expected, it has colored it blue and the intersecting area has been removed. Now you might ask, what's the point of this, right? Let me increase the size of this blue shape so it covers the orange shape completely. Now let's apply combine to this. You see, we got a shape with a rectangle punched in it. You would use combine when you want to carve one shape into another. Let me do one thing. Let me put some text on top of it. I'm going to type something, then place that text box on top of this shape like so. Let me make this bold and increase the size a bit. Remember, I created a text box separately from shape. I didn't try to enter the text inside the shape. Now select both the text and the shape and then apply the combine effect. Now you'll see our text got punched into this shape. Now imagine if you had an image like this and if you place it behind your shape. Let me enlarge this. This way we can create some unique looking effects. Next up is Fragment. Fragment is the most useful option in my experience. What Fragment does is it just cuts the shapes wherever they intersect. So in this case, we can see that the shapes intersect here. Go to shape format, click on Fragment. You see we have 3 shapes now. This option is immensely useful for icon creation. Next up is Intersect. If I click on Intersect, it leaves us with a shape where the shapes used to intersect. Lastly, Subtract will subtract one shape from another. Depending on which one you selected first, it will subtract that shape from the second shape. So I'm going to select orange first and then blue. Then I'm going to click on Subtract. So the overlapping part of orange and the blue part got subtracted. If we did it in the other order, so we selected blue first and orange second, subtract will leave us with this part. Next up, let's look at some use cases for shapes, starting with icons. Icons are fundamentally just shapes. Here are a few examples. Looks like a road. However, all it is a rectangle and a dashed line. This human icon is a combination of 3 shapes. So you have a circle, a rounded rectangle and a trapezoid, and this one is similar except we have 2 trapezoids here. This button is nothing but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 circles. This alien head, this is a teardrop, and these are 2 teardrops made to look like eyes. This is a rounded rectangle. The sun is made with just 2 shapes, a circle and these rectangles. So you can see how easy it is to build icons using simple shapes. Next up, we can use shapes for illustrations. So taking the same road example, we have 2 circles. We have applied inner shadow here. Then this road is nothing but a rectangle and this white marking is another rectangle. I have applied shadow here. Then here I have applied a 3-point gradient. So red, yellow and green. These smileys are again a shape you will find here under basic shapes. These matchsticks are also shapes. If I took out one of the matchsticks, these are nothing but simple shapes. We can also use shapes to create timelines. So I have a Gantt chart here, and these are rounded rectangles used as timelines. We can also use shapes to create process flows. So we have used lines here, circles with dashed outline. We have icons, then a circle here. We can also use shapes to depict visual hierarchy. If you click on Smart Art, there are tons of examples of visual hierarchy in different formats. So you have cycles, relations, and so on. So shapes are everywhere. We can use shapes to mask images or crop images to specific shapes. If I copy my image, then click on my shape, go to shape fill option, click on picture, and click on this clipboard option. It will just copy whatever is in your clipboard onto this shape. Another way we can crop a photo to a shape is you can click on your image, go to picture format, click on crop to shape. So in our case, let's say we want to go with a circle, click on oval. Right now, this does not look like a circle. To fix that, click on your image, click on crop option again, drag from these handles, make this closer to a circle. This is how you can crop an image to a specific shape. There are other ways you can mask images with shapes, but knowing just these two will take you a long way. Next, let's look at a few tips that can speed up your work in PowerPoint, starting with keyboard shortcuts. There are far more shortcuts than these. However, if you just learn these, it will really speed up your work. So the first one is duplicating a shape. So you will be duplicating shapes quite a lot. The obvious way is to press Ctrl C and then press Ctrl V. So it's two actions, but instead if you just press Ctrl D, it straight away will duplicate your shape. Second is something we have already talked about. Anytime we draw our shape, it gets drawn from top to bottom. If you want to change that, you can draw your shape while having Ctrl Shift pressed. This will draw the shape from the center. Pressing Shift means that you have maintained the proportions of your shape equally on both sides. If you leave your Shift key and then draw, you are no longer confined by the proportions. Grouping is something we have already learned. We have also looked at resize shape. Now the last one is not that commonly known. However, it can be super useful. Let's say if you wanted to resize this shape from both sides. So I wanted this side to reach up to this point, and let's say this side to reach somewhere here. Instead of doing this manually 2 times, what you can do is hold down your Control key and then resize from either sides, and it will resize your shape by the same amount on both sides. Same applies vertically as well. If you hold down your Control key and then resize it, it resizes it equally from both sides at once. So those are the keyboard shortcuts I would recommend you memorize at the beginning. You can use shapes to guide a slide layout. If you are using a certain types of slides over and over again, it's useful to create templates or layouts like these. This will allow you to plug in your text quickly, and you don't need to keep drawing these shapes every single time. And this also makes sure that all your text is nicely structured. This is another layout. This is the quotes slide. So if your presentation has a lot of quotes to be shown, if you have a layout like this, all these are rectangles, you can just plug in your text into these quickly. One last thing I forgot to mention is using Format Painter. Let's say if you changed one of the shapes, for some reason you wanted this to have a shadow and the color needed to be orange. Now instead of making these 2 changes 5 more times one by one, you can use Format Painter to duplicate this formatting with just 1 click. Click on your original shape, then click on this paintbrush. If you click on this just once and then click on this second circle here, it has applied the formatting of this shape to this shape in just 1 click. But since we want to apply the same formatting to multiple objects, we can't keep clicking on this once and then repeating it. Instead, if you double click on this paintbrush, you can click on all the objects without having to go back to the paintbrush again. You see that our cursor has changed to an arrow and paintbrush, and it will remain so as long as you don't click anywhere on the slide area. The moment you click outside, the format painter option goes away. So very handy tool indeed. Lastly, let's do a quick and complete overview of all the 190 shapes in PowerPoint, starting with lines. So here are all the line types you have in PowerPoint. So this is a simple straight line. Then we have lines with arrows. Then we have connector elbows. These are the curved lines that I mentioned at the beginning. I don't like these because they don't look that good. Then we have a curved line. This is a lot more customizable compared to this one. However, I can never get good looking curves here. For example, if you notice closely here, it looks a little wobbly on this end. So the lines can never be clean curves. I don't like this for that reason. Then we have a freeform shape. You can draw a freeform shape in PowerPoint using this option. This is technically not a line, but for some reason PowerPoint lists this under lines. Then we have freeform scribble. This is just a pen tool. So if you have a drawing tool and if you just start scribbling, this is the result of that. In my opinion, there is a better option than this. So if you have draw menu enabled in PowerPoint, just use a regular pen and scribble. You will get much better looking lines compared to this freeform scribble. Next, we have rectangles. We have already looked at a bunch of them, but here is the summary of all of them. So we looked at these two at length. There are others with snipped edges like this. There are rectangles with just one rounded corner, two rounded corners. This is also an interesting shape. Here we have two diagonal rounded corners. All of them can be useful. Then we have basic shapes, starting with ovals. If you hold down your shift key when you draw an oval, you will get a circle. We get two types of triangles in PowerPoint. One is a right triangle and the other one is isosceles. I recently did a short demonstrating how to draw every single triangle, so check that out. We have a few more shapes here. A lot of these have custom handles, so you can customize them further. Then we have a few interesting shapes. So partial circle can be useful because it lets us draw semicircles, a quarter circle. A chord is a special case of partial circle, except that here we can resize it without having to be consistent with the center. This is a teardrop. The icon I showed you for the alien head used this. Then we have frames. If you put these half frames at the corners of images, you can get a good looking effect. So try that. Then we have a plus sign, which can be changed using these yellow handles. Here are two 3D shapes. This is how a rectangle with beveled edge looks like. This is your donut. This is the no parking symbol. Then we have a semicircle. You can control it using two handles here. So this will control the thickness of it and this will control the length. We have sun and moon, a lightning bolt. This is the smiley that I had used in one of the illustrations. Cool thing about the smiley is you can adjust its smile. The only drawback with this smiley is you cannot change the colors of eyes or the mouth. What I recommend is just copy this icon, make sure that the smile position is the way you want it, then paste it and select this picture SVG format and click OK. Then right click and click on ungroup, say yes. Do that one more time. This time I'm using keyboard shortcut Control Shift G. This will separate your circle from the eyes. So now you can color these eyes independently. So yeah, then we have a cloud shape. This is an arc. So arc is nothing but a line. So there is no shape fill. Ideally, this option should have been under a line and the freeform shape should have been somewhere here. Then we have these brackets. So this comes as one set. You can control the curvature of your brackets, but they will stay together. Then we have these curly brackets. These are square brackets, but they come in separate pairs. So these are now independent shapes. Next we have block arrows. So all types of arrows can be found here. There are a couple of interesting shapes here at the bottom. So this arrow pentagon can be used in process diagrams. This chevron can be useful when building shapes. My most popular video used a chevron. Link is in the description if you want to see how I use chevron to create process flow. We have a few more of them here. Then we have 6 equation shapes. All of them are customizable to an extent. You can even change the direction of this cross line. It's pretty cool. This plus sign is same as the one we saw before. The only difference is the yellow handle for this one is here, but for that one, I think it's at the top. Yep, it's at the top here. Here are all the flowchart related shapes. Although some of them have been repeated from before, the key difference here is you cannot customize these further. So none of them have yellow handles. They are static shapes. You can just resize them. I have no idea where some of these are used. If you come from computer science background, this might be familiar to you. Then we have stars and banners. So we have 2 explosions here. And then we have a galore of stars starting with 4 points all the way to 32 points. We also get this yellow handle with all these stars. If you bring this handle all the way outside, it changes into different polygons. We have a lot of ribbons here. I have rarely used ribbons. We have a lot of them and with really good customization options. So you can really see PowerPoint folks went extra lengths to create these. Then we have callouts, so speech bubbles. There are so many types of speech bubbles, but in my experience, only these top 3 or 4 are most useful. Finally, we have action buttons. Technically, these are shapes. However, their purpose is to do something else beyond just being a static shape. So all of them are supposed to have an action associated with them. If I click on this button, it should go back to the previous slide, and it does. This should go to the very first slide, and it does. This should also go to the very first slide. This should go to the last slide that we clicked, which should be again the first slide. All these actions can be found by going to Insert and locating this action button here. If you click on it, this is where you can specify the actions. Let's quickly create one of the action buttons. So let's go on to a new slide, go to Insert, click on Shapes. Let's select this first button here. When you draw this button and release your mouse, a pop-up window appears. This is the default action associated with it. But if you want this to do something else, this is where you can do that. So let's say I don't want anything happening here. I can just click on None, click OK. If I go to full screen mode and click on this button, nothing happens. Go to Insert, click on Action again. Let's change this. So click on this hyperlink to, and from this drop down box, click on Previous Slide, click OK. Let's go back to the full screen mode and click on this button now. You see it has now applied that action. So you can find different options under this pop-up menu. So you can go to any of these slides. You can also open a program by specifying the path or a URL here. You can give this a sound. So let me click on applause and let's keep this none. Let's see what happens. So that's action buttons for you, and that's it for all the shapes. So I know this was quite a long video, but my goal was to just make a single reference video. So I hope you found this useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for future videos, and I will catch you next time.